So we have some more big news in the sports card industry, and I know that in almost every single video and in almost every single podcast, I say that we have some big news, but I really do think that this is going to be a big deal right now, and it's going to be a big deal in the future. So the big news is that UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, they are going to be switching from Topps to Panini with their exclusive license. So the exclusive license, many of you probably know this, that Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck all own exclusive licensing for certain sports and certain players in some cases, depending on if they sign some sort of contract. But Topps owns, or MLB is Topps. Panini is now UFC, but they also had the NFL and the NBA, and then Upper Deck is in the NHL. So switching from Topps to Panini is a big deal because we haven't really seen a big switch like this. Now, another change that happened was Panini made some Bundesliga cards that I hadn't seen in the past in any of their types of soccer products that they had produced. So I'm not sure if for some reason the license had expired, so that way Topps is now not the exclusive licensing producer of Bundesliga cards, which is a German soccer league. So we saw like an Erling Haaland card that was in Panini Immaculate that recently came out in January. But now we're seeing the first major sport within the United States that's going to be switching from Topps to Panini. Now it's going from Panini to Topps, Topps to Panini. The big deal here is that this sport is switching the licensing, the exclusive licensing. So all of these other sports, they only have cards produce, at least licensed cards, because Panini does make baseball cards, but they're not licensed, which if they're not licensed, that essentially means that they Photoshop all the logos, they take all the logos off the jerseys and off the cards and off the hats for baseball at least. But Topps doesn't do any unlicensed basketball or football, which is something that I would actually love to see. I would love to see Topps come back and do an unlicensed set for basketball. I don't know if that's really in their plans or something that they would want to do, but it's clear that Panini, that's something that they do want to do. Like we've seen Prism for baseball, we've seen Optic for baseball, Chronicles, a bunch of big products have come out for Panini that are unlicensed for baseball. Now, like I said, we also have seen Topps take over the sticker license for the NHL, and Panini has done actually some NHL. I think they did the first and the second overall pick from this last year's draft. They had exclusive licensing for some of those players, but they did like Photoshop the jerseys similar to how they do with baseball. But, that's a big deal as well. I think that Panini making hockey cards, I think, is showing that there is an opportunity for one of these sports to change. And obviously now the UFC, I think that's a huge deal. And I think UFC, it may not seem like a big sport within the United States, but it's one of the growing ones that I think has a very strong niche. And I don't know if this means that we're going to see like WWE switching over. I don't know if this means, I don't think that baseball will ever switch from Panini to from Topps to Panini. But the exclusive licensing agreements are kind of interesting because there's a bunch of different variables, especially within soccer. There's a bunch of different ones, but like there's licensing within video games, there's licensing within mobile apps, there's licensing within stickers. Like I said, for Topps, they have the exclusive sticker license for the NHL, which they essentially are just making the cards, but they're making them in sticker form, which I think, is a big deal because it's showing the NHL and maybe potentially Panini or some of these other companies that you don't need to do these exclusive licensing deals anymore. And I think now that we're going to see one major sport switch from Topps to Panini, I think that's going to open the door. And I think that the next sport to potentially do this is probably going to be the NHL. Just because they're with Upper Deck, which is probably the third largest if you're considering top sports card companies within the United States. They're probably going to be the third largest. And I think for the NHL, I don't know if switching licenses would help the sport, but I do think the sport needs a little bit of help when it comes to the marketing standpoint. And I think if Topps was able to make hockey cards again, because as you know, previously in the past, like there are older hockey cards, like O-Pee-Chee is a Topps brand that was a Canadian exclusive brand essentially, but there are, like for the Wayne Gretzky card that recently sold for $1.2 million, there was a Topps and an O-Pee-Chee card. Now they're both both the PSA 10s are one of two. There's only two of each, and the O-Pee-Chee is more rare in the way that it was cut. So I think an interesting little little fact about that card is that it actually has a jagged edge because it was cut with a wire, and I didn't really know this. So like when I was posting about the card, people were saying, "Well, that's not a PSA 10 because look at the edge; it's jagged." And I didn't really know what to say because I was like, "Yeah, I mean you're right. Well, I don't know why that is." And then I was looking into the card more, and that's when I found out that it actually was cut with a wire, and that's why you're seeing those jagged edges on some of those OPG cards. So I think for most of the sports, they essentially have their licensing. They have their licensing locked up for. I think MLB just announced they're going to be licensed through 2025, and I know that the NHL did announce that they are going to be staying with Upper Deck. I don't think that they announced a specific. I don't think they announced a specific date on when that is going to expire. And then I think the same with Panini with the ML, or excuse me, with the NFL and NBA. I know they announced new deals, but I don't think they talked about when the deal was exactly going to expire. So, like I said, I don't think MLB will ever leave Topps because I think there's too much history between the MLB and Topps. Like, just going back to some of the original sets, like we saw the Mickey Mantle part of that 52 Topps set. That card, the PSA 9, just sold for $5.2 million. So I don't see. I think if this works for Upper Deck, or excuse me, for the UFC, I think that we could see some big changes when these licensing agreements expire with the leagues and the sports. Because if the UFC can show that switching or making it so it's not an exclusive licensing deal can either increase revenue or it can increase any type of exposure for the sport, I think that the NFL and the NBA I think they would be willing to potentially switch because, for example, like Topps also made football cards. So Topps made all of these cards in the past. They've made football, they've made basketball, they made hockey. Obviously, they still make baseball, but it was, I think, 2009, the Steph Curry, James Harden, Kyle Lowry, Blake Griffin draft was the last year that Topps made basketball, and I believe the Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota draft for football, which I think was 2014, was the last year that Topps made football. So I think that we could see a change in one of these sports soon. Soon, I mean in the next 5 years when maybe these licensing agreements expires. Another interesting fact is that before Tyler Herro was drafted, he posted a picture on his Instagram of a Topps Chrome card that he was signing, which, if you know anything about Topps Chrome, like I just said, Topps hasn't made basketball cards, or at least licensed basketball cards, since 2009. So when this card kind of surfaced on Tyler Herro's Instagram, there were tons of questions like, was Topps Chrome basketball coming back? Was Topps bringing back basketball? And I think it was a Kentucky card. It wasn't a Miami card. So it was like mostly blue and gray and white. So it probably would have been, in theory, it probably would have been some college product that he was signing, which, like I said, it didn't end up even coming out. So I don't know, like, what Topps' plan was there. Like, I don't know if it was maybe a mistake that they sent him the cards. I don't know if, like, they had a set that was supposed to come out and then they kind of, the deal itself fell through. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but we did see some Topps Chrome basketball in the past few years, which I think it would be phenomenal if Topps could come out with basketball or football again. I think because we already see that Panini comes out with baseball. Now, licensing versus unlicensed, I think that if Topps were to come out with some unlicensed sets, that would pretty much just be to show that there is Topps basketball demand, and maybe they could even bring the cards and bring all of the information to the NBA when that licensing agreement with Panini is going to expire and say, hey, don't sign the exclusive, like, let's have both companies be able to make these cards. And I know what you might be thinking, back in the 90s, this is basically what happened. Like, each company had 1 to 2 different products, and that came out throughout the year within baseball and some basketball. But each of these companies had 1 to 2 products, but there was like 15 different companies. So, I can see how people may not want that specifically because they don't want a repeat of that. They don't want Topps and Panini both coming out with NBA products. And, Panini comes out with a new product almost every 2 weeks for basketball. So, like, if you were to bring Topps into that mix and you were to include another, 20 to maybe 25 products for Topps, I could see how people may not want that. But to be honest, I just think that it would be great for sports cards if another competitor came in. I think it's very similar to like the EA, Madden. I played Madden. One of the reasons I actually got back into sports cards was because of the Madden Ultimate Team market and all that type of stuff. But I played Madden, and it was an okay game. And I think if you look at reviews and stuff, it's sort of not been in too much favor when it comes to the gaming community. And I think it's mainly because EA has the exclusive license. So I think it would bring in the competition. I think it would be great for the hobby. I think it would be great for the sports to get more marketing out there. But, that's just basically the news from, and I know that I'm kind of veering off from UFC and Panini, but I think this is going to be a change that hopefully will be good, and that hopefully will show some of these sports that they can make that change when it comes to the exclusive licensing, or even just get rid of the exclusive licensing all to begin with. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the like button. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much, everybody. I will see you in the next video/podcast.